Hi everybody. Okay, so we're going to have a look in this session at some exam technique, and we're going to look at a write an account question. It's the third question on this paper, on the conflict and tension paper. It's worth 8 marks, and therefore that means that you should be spending 10 minutes on it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the process of how I would approach answering this question. And we're going to do it based on the rise of the Nazi Party in the 1930s, which I covered in the previous video. So please feel free to go back and watch that if you haven't already, but I will be going through the material that I used in that session anyway. So I'm going to start then by showing you some examiner's tips for this question. So write an account of how the Great Depression led to the rise of the Nazi Party. That's the question that we're going to be looking at today. So these are from the AQA textbook. I've gone through and written down all of the examiner's tips for each question, and these are all of the ones that I could find on the right account. So CCC for this one, chronological order. So they want your answer to be in chronological order, looking at causes and consequences. So it's asking how things changed or looking at cause and consequence. So if the question asks about change, you must refer to how things were before the event. Don't worry too much about all of these tips. I'm just going to read through them and then I'm going to break down the structure of the question for you. You need to demonstrate your knowledge of events. So include examples and evidence. It's not just asking you to describe the features of a particular period, but also to explain how and why it could be described in that way. You should aim to write more than one example. Where there are dates, make sure you pay close attention to them. That's really, really important. That I said in the last time I did an exam technique video, make sure you're answering the question that is asked, not the question that you wish it was. And only consider events which happened in these years. Ensure your answer is focused on the question and show how one event led to another. Okay, let's try and break that down into what this kind of answer should actually look like, and then we'll have a look at planning this question and what kind of things we would include in it. So the structure then for a write an account question. You're looking for basically an overview and 2 paragraphs. Now, the way that I always tell my students to approach this question is because you've got this one on this paper, which is 1B, and then you've also got it on 2B, which is your depth study. So my students study Elizabethan England, so they've got this on Elizabethan paper. You might have it on the Norman paper if you do the Normans, but it's that section of the course you've got this one on again. So I marked this paper for AQA, and the way that I tell my students to approach it is to give an overview of the event itself, just to give a little bit of background, and then 2 paragraphs which are 2 explained points. So the easiest way really to think about this question, pardon me, is the explain question, which again is on the Elizabethan or the Norman paper, the paper 2. So your 2 explain points, but with that overview. It really isn't a particularly hard question, this one. It's not worded in a friendly way. I remember the first time I ever gave a write an account question to one of my classes in 2016 when this exam had first started, and one of them wrote me a diary entry, because it is write an account sounds like a describe question or tell me everything you know about this process, but actually it's not like that, but it's 2 explain points with an overview. So in this question, our 2 explain points would be, we would need to find 2 ways the depression led to the rise of the Nazis. So let's go back and find that evidence, and then we can use that in our plan. So if we have a look, then we've got, I would start this answer with the overview by talking about the Wall Street crash. So if we're looking for 2 reasons that depression led to the rise of the Nazis, we need to talk about the effect that the depression has had on the people of Germany, and therefore what Hitler promised them. So we've got this solution of freedom, bread and work, and the complex solutions that the party offered. So that's going to be my first point. Okay, so if I'm going to do a little plan here, my overview, I'm going to talk about the Wall Street crash, and I'm going to talk about the loans that America gave to Germany, and I'm basically going to give an overview which explains how Germany was impacted by the depression. Okay, and that's going to be my overview. My first explained point is going to be about how democracy had failed and the complex solutions offered by the Weimar government in Germany at the time, and then how a dictatorship, so Hitler, offered simple solutions. And I'm going to use his slogan of freedom, land and bread. Okay, my second explained point here. So let's go back and find another one. We know about the loans, but let's have a look here. Oh, sorry, I'm not in the right place here. So my second one is going to be the idea that, well, in fact, I'm going to use the evidence from this source. So the unemployment rate in Germany at this time, and how the people were desperate for food and resources. So the depression, so remember we're talking about how one event led to another, led to high levels of unemployment, starvation, loss of savings, homelessness, and you can use examples from the source. So here, where he talks about honest working man resorting to theft, okay, so basically the desperation that people had, and then again I'm going to link this back to Hitler's promise of bread and jobs, okay, and security and national pride. So can we see here how it really is a lot more straightforward than you might fear this question? So my first explain point links to my second explain point, because in this one, I'm talking about what a dictatorship offers and how that is a simple solution compared to democracy. And then this one, I'm giving a specific example of what the German people needed compared to what Hitler was able to offer. Okay, so I'm just going to show you then the mark scheme for this question. Okay, so this is from a different question. This is from the June 2019 question, which was about the Treaty of Versailles. But if we just look at what the question is asking of us, so for level 4, if you're looking for 7 to 8, the answer is presented in a coherent narrative or account that demonstrates a range of accurate and detailed knowledge and understanding that is relevant to the question. So don't look at the example, because that's not the question that we've been looking at. But students may progress from a developed narrative of causation or consequence with complex sequencing and reasoning. So this just means explaining your point, okay? There's a lot of jargon in this, but it just means explaining your point. And detailed factual knowledge and understanding, so that's all about your revision, which might be related, for an example, to an analysis of how or why. So in our thing, we're analysing how or why Hitler came to power because of the Depression. And then the difference then here in level 3 is we've got a developed sequencing, so that's about the chronology and the way that you're linking your points. For level 2, we've got simple, and level 1, we've got an identity. So let's just have a look then. I know this is a different one than we've been looking at, but we've got a point, then an explanation of how that links, and that's exactly what we've done in our answer. So 2 explained points with an introduction at the start that shows that you are aware of the context. So your introduction is giving the context. It's saying this is the situation at the time in your introduction, and then your 2 explained points are this is how this happened and this is how this happened. Okay, really quite straightforward, but it's important obviously that you know your stuff and you're able to make those links. And I've obviously not had time to write out the full answer, but I'll just pop the plan back on. And then if you wanted to have a go at answering that question, then you've got that information to do that. Writing account questions you can do about any event that happens. Have a go at writing your own and planning those. That's a brilliant way to revise. Okay, so I hope that's been useful for you. Thank you for tuning into this session, and I will see you again.